Hello, I am Nitin Sharma and my roll number is 16. And the project I've worked on is online voting portal. I've created a full stack application demonstrating this voting portal. This is the ER diagram of the database schema. First, let me tell you, there are three problems that I need you to keep in mind while creating this project. First of all, the double voting problem. So whenever a user casts a vote, he or she should not be able to cast that vote again into that particular election. So that I need to keep in mind that. The second problem, the second problem is the anonymity of the user. So once the user have cast a vote to a specific candidate in an election, the system should not be able to trace it back to the user. Like once a vote is cast, given that vote, we should not be able to trace back who casted that vote. That is the second problem. And the third problem is a transaction. Let's say multiple user came at the same time, which will eventually happen, and they cast the same vote at the same time. So I needed to make sure the system remain consistent and count their votes. Okay. So I've created the schema keeping these things in mind. First of all, let me explain all the tables. There is a voter table and then there is a region table. Every voter belongs to a specific region. Every election also belongs to a specific region also. Region is basically divided into different levels. Let's say a country type, a country, state, and a city. So every election is part of a region, and voters of that region only can vote into that election. Let's say an election is being held in Rajasthan only, so only the voters belonging to Rajasthan can only cast vote into that region. Then there is admin table. Admins can create elections, so every election has an admin ID. Also, there is a candidate table. Admins can add and remove candidates as per their wish, but to make them take part in an election, they are being placed in participant table. So, participant table contains election ID and candidate ID to show a particular candidate is being part of this election. Okay. Then there comes the most important part, the anonymous vote table and the voting status table. So let's say a user has cast a vote to a specific candidate in a specific election. We put his vote into two different tables. First, voting status. What voting status stores is the voter ID and the election ID. So it is only present to show that a particular user has voted into that election and he should not be able to vote again. So whenever a user came to vote, we first check in the voting status table, is does that user already voted into that election? If no, then we allow the user to vote, and if the user came second time, we block the user. So this prevents double voting. And then there is an anonymous votes table. Anonymous votes, as the name suggests, it protects the anonymity of the user. It only stores the election ID and candidate ID. So basically, whenever a vote is cast, the vote is placed in this anonymous vote table, and it does not store the voter ID. It cannot be linked back to who the user has cast his vote to. So it is completely anonymous. Okay. So let me show you the database queries that are used. Mm. So this is the most important route in the backend. There are different routes. And the third problem is that the transaction problem. So this is the transaction. I've started a transaction here. Let's say multiple users came at the same time to vote. This ensures consistency in the database. Hmm. So first of all, we'll find the election. There's also the for update. This is a row level locking. Basically, if a user came to vote, this particular query will ensure that the row level, the particular row is logged for that user. Okay. Mhm. So basically, this whole block is counts as a transaction from start until there is a commit transaction around here. So this whole block counts as a transaction. So even if multiple people came at the same time, it ensured the concurrency does not break. The database remain consistent. So the process is such that first of all the election is found, if that election is even exist. Mm, if election does not exist, we return here. We found the time at which the user is being voted. Then we find out the participant uh, whom which the user is trying to vote. So it first brings back all the participants from the participant table of that particular election. There's for update in every single of the queries to ensure the row level lock. So basically, if it is for that if two people with same account try to vote at the same time, this ensures that the first person gets a row level lock onto that transaction, and the second one has to wait until the first one has completed transaction. So this is very important for consistency. After that, we select, we find out if the user has already voted or not. In the has voted, in the voting status table, if there is entry present for that particular user, that means the user has already voted, so we prevent the user from voting. If the entry does not present, then we allow the user. As I told earlier, we put the vote into two different tables. First, the anonymous vote table, then the voting status table. Voting status table is used to prevent the double voting. It only tells if the user has voted or not for the particular election. It does not store who the user have voted. Whereas the anonymous vote table, it only stores the election ID and candidate ID. Basically, a vote is placed to that particular candidate in that particular election. But who has voted, that does not exist in the anonymous vote table. So the vote is not able to be traced back to the voter. These two things are very much important for the voting portal. And after that, the voting status table is updated, and then the transaction is committed. This is one of the most important part of the whole process while building this application. There are multiple different routes also. Okay, so now let's look at the front end of this voting portal. So this is the landing page. User can log in and sign up. Let me go through the first sign up process. Let me create a new account. Mm, let's select whatever state there is. Yeah, so let's sign up. So whenever user signs up, an OTP is generated, and OTP is sent to that particular mail. I've opened the mail. There it is. Our OTP is this 147591. 591. So I've written the backend logic such a way that it verifies the OTP. Only after verification the account is created. Let me log back in. This is the email I just used. So this is the user dashboard. This is the user dashboard, and there are no particular, there are no active election right now. We will create a election very soon. These are the past election that I've created for demo purposes. Let me create an election. Create an election, we need to log in as an admin. I've already created an admin, so let me log in. So this is the admin dashboard. This is very similar to the user dashboard. There are some different things. An admin can create election, add candidates, edit election, and stop an already running election. Admins can do that. Let's create a new election. Uh, so let's call it whatever, Lok Sabha 2026 or something. The region Kerala. Okay. And the date, let's start on 30th November and end one day. Uh, after after the election description, the admin can choose the participants. Let's select some at random. So as you can see, a new election is active, Lok Sabha 2026. And if I go through the user portal, yep, there is an election available to vote. I can vote into that election. It is available for one particular day, and there are three candidates to which I can vote. Okay, let's cast a vote, whoever. So as you can see, a vote is cast successfully. Now, if I try to vote again here, let's say some other candidate. Yep, the portal basically blocks us from voting. It states already voted. We cannot vote again into this again, no matter how much I try. So I've cast one vote. Let me log in with different ID and cast another vote. If I log in, uh, let's use a different ID. Okay. So this is a different ID. As you can see, the region is changed to Punjab. Okay, so if I try to vote here, let's vote him again. Have cast a vote successfully. Now again, um, I cannot cast vote again. No. So if I go to the admin and if I reload, I can stop the vote right here and right now to announce the result. Let me do that. And if I go back to the user portal, as you can see, the active election is gone and now it is a part of Lok Sabha 2026. It is a part of past election. And the winner is Arjun Mehta. You can see the full analysis. There are two votes cast to that particular. And I can also show you in database. If I do select star from election, and if I run this query, there is a Lok Sabha 2026 start time, end time, the reason ID, and the admin who has created this vote. So yeah, and there is also the anonymous. So the election ID of this is 16, and if I show you anonymous vote table, in the election ID 16, there are two votes cast, but it only stores the vote ID. It is not the voter ID. It is just the vote ID and the candidate ID whom the vote is being placed to. There is no column for voter or the user who has voted. So the system cannot trace it back who placed this vote here. But while calculating the result, it counts from this table only. There is also one more function. The admin can also add candidates and add new parties. Let's add a new candidate. Let's add myself as a candidate. And let me choose whatever party. I've added myself as a candidate, and if I create a new election, uh, let's say a small class representative, the region does not matter here. And I can add myself as a participant now because I've just created myself as a candidate, and now I can add this as a participant. And now different users can vote here. Okay, this is in class. I can vote here and I can vote to myself. And the admins, after one day, the results are automatically calculated, but the admins can stop and announce it right whenever they want. It's just for demo purposes, actually. Now, there it is. So this is the full stack application. Hmm. Uh, That's all. This is also the PR diagram according to the MySQL workbench. The whole code is actually present onto this GitHub repository. That's all. Thank you.